Hello friend. In this video we will be considering the various situations where a parent or carer believes that a child is under the influence of evil spirits or entities, and as a consequence of this belief, a child becomes the subject of maltreatment. We will revisit some of the lessons learnt and recommendations made during the investigation of the abuse which Victoria Climbié suffered from her carers, which ultimately led to the loss of her precious life. We will be making references to the Victoria Climbié inquiry and the criminal trial of Victoria's carers. We would like at this point to acknowledge the work done by Lord Laming in the Victoria Climbié inquiry, and we also give him credit for his contribution to child protection work in the United Kingdom. We also give credit to all the people involved in child protection work across the world. And we at Tina Dew hope the principles we are about to share with you will help you in your decision-making process. In 2000, in London, an 8-year-old Ivorian girl, Victoria Adjo Climbié, was tortured and murdered by the couple who were looking after her. Her death led to a public inquiry and produced major changes in child protection policies in the United Kingdom. During the years of abuse, Climbié was burnt with cigarettes, tied up for periods of longer than 24 hours, and hit with bike chains, hammers and wires. Up to her death, the police, the Social Services Department of 4 local authorities, the National Health Service, the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, NSPCC, and local churches all had contact with her and noted the signs of abuse. However, in what the judge in the criminal trial following Climbié's death described as blinding incompetence, all failed properly to investigate the case and little action was taken. From the findings of the Climbié inquiry, we have identified that one of the significant harm the child suffered can be categorised as belief in evil spirits, poltergeist, and this belief system leading to harm being perpetrated on a child, either physically or psychologically. Victoria Climbié also suffered 4 other types of significant harm or abuses, which are covered in other videos. Please watch my video on significant harm to gain a full understanding of the definition of significant harm. In this project, we are going to only focus on a belief in evil spirits, poltergeist, and this belief system leading to harm being perpetrated on a child, either physically or psychologically. How can a child suffer psychological or physical abuse or significant harm due to his or her carer's belief in evil spirits or poltergeist? Let us first define the terms. Spirit possession or entity possession is a term for the belief that animals, demons, extraterrestrials, gods or spirits can take control of a human body. The concept of spirit possession or external entity taking over a human body exists in many religions and cultures, including Christianity, Buddhism, Haitian Voodoo, Wicca, Hinduism, Islam, Southeast Asian, African traditions, and in Europe and North America in the form of poltergeist, including unidentified flying objects, UFOs, encounter of the 5th kind, where an extraterrestrial takes over the body of a human host. Depending on the cultural context in which it is found, possession may be considered voluntary or involuntary, and may be considered to have beneficial or detrimental effects to a host. This project is not going to explore the rights and wrongs of all these belief systems, but will focus on how children can be kept safe from significant harm. It's worth mentioning that the study of psychiatry and psychology does not recognise these kinds of belief systems. People alleged to be possessed by spirit entities sometimes exhibit symptoms similar to those associated with mental illnesses, such as psychosis, hysteria, mania, Tourette syndrome, epilepsy, schizophrenia, or dissociative identity disorder. Now that we have defined the key theme, generally speaking, and depending on the situation or circumstance, calling a child "you cheeky monster" or "you cheeky devil" by most people's standard can be a term of endearment and does not necessarily suggest any abusive intention. However, these statements in the context of a belief that the child is possessed of evil spirits and leading to ill treatment of the child should lead to a referral to a child protection worker. I hasten to add that although belief in spirit possession, poltergeist, UFO encounter of the fifth kind is widespread across the world, but current knowledge indicates that the incidence of abuse linked to such beliefs appears to be low. These beliefs occupy a broad platform, and the effects range from harmless to harmful. Belief in spirit possession or poltergeist, including UFO encounter of the fifth kind, where an extraterrestrial takes over the body of a human host, is not, of itself, evidence of maltreatment or evidence of abuse. What a parent or carer believes about their child is a relevant consideration in child protection investigation. Take the case of Victoria Climbié, in which a couple believed that Victoria was possessed of evil spirits and therefore saw the little child as someone to be maltreated and undeserving of their love and affection. In Victoria Climbié's case, her primary carer was apparently hearing voices and held a belief that Victoria was possessed by evil spirits, and this led to the child being beaten with various objects, the effect of which was to cause Victoria to suffer psychological problems and physical abuse and neglect. We will discuss physical abuse and neglect in another video. It is worth mentioning at this point that when a parent or carer is hearing voices telling them to hurt a child, this should be considered as a sign of psychosis or some other form of mental health problems, in which case a referral could be made on behalf of the carer for a psychological evaluation where there is no pre-existing psychiatric history. Let us make one further point on the issue of psychiatric evaluation. In a recent case, Bartram and Southend Magistrates Court reported in 2004, EWHC, from page 2691, a man stabbed a dog to death on the basis that he believed that the dog was possessed of evil spirit. Psychiatric evaluation confirmed that he suffered from schizophrenia. Mental health problems could lead to irrational beliefs and lead someone to harm a child. In the case of Birmingham City Council and AG and others reported in 2009, EWHC, from page 3720, a man whom we shall refer to as J.A., who held a strong belief in evil spirit, formed a relationship with a mother, and he subsequently introduced the restriction of food as a form of punishment for the children, and beat the children, and as a consequence, one of the children was starved to death. J.A. believed that prior to the child's death, the child was possessed by jinn, or an evil spirit. A day before the child died, the mother was heard by the other children saying there must be a jinn or evil spirit in Kay's body. The 7-year-old child desperately needed medical help, but none was sought until the child died. These cases illustrate the belief in evil spirit or poltergeist, which has led to a child being maltreated and eventually led to the child's death. The belief in poltergeist is illustrated by the well-known case of the Enfield poltergeist. Enfield is a location in the London area, and there is no suggestion here that the Enfield poltergeist was a case of child abuse, but it serves only to illustrate the belief. In August 1977, a single parent, Peggy Hodgson, called police to her rented home in Enfield after 2 of her 4 children claimed that furniture was moving and knocking sounds were heard on walls. The children included Margaret, age 13, Janet, age 11, Johnny, age 10, and Billy, age 7. A female police constable saw a chair slide on the floor, but couldn't determine if it moved by itself or was pushed by someone. Later claims included allegedly demonic voices, loud noises, thrown rocks and toys, overturned chairs, and levitation of children. Reports of further incidents in the house attracted considerable press attention, and the story was covered in British newspapers. This historical information can be found in Wikipedia or on Google search. It must be stressed that the Enfield poltergeist was not linked to the maltreatment of a child. However, there are incidents where a child is maltreated and on the basis that they have been possessed by demons or evil spirits. Generally speaking, child abuse under this category will not only include a belief in spirit possession, but is also accompanied by some kind of significant harm to the child. In other words, where there is abuse of children accused of possession, this abuse can be analysed and properly understood using one or more of the 5 identified forms of child abuse: physical, sexual and emotional abuse, psychological abuse, and neglect. The psychological, emotional and physical harm caused by this kind of belief system can damage the development and well-being of a child and can lead to mental health problems and behavioural problems. And in the cases of Victoria Climbié and Kay mentioned earlier, both children lost their lives. The steps to be taken by professionals to ensure that the child is not harmed will depend on various assessment factors, including the child's vulnerability and the evidence of harm. Please watch my video on the vulnerability of children, in which I consider the children's ages in relation to significant harm. Each case must be examined on its own merits to ascertain whether a child has suffered significant harm. At all times, the paramount objective should be on how to protect the child and keep her safe from harm or abuse. Where possible, the child protection professional should work with family and gain a better or fuller understanding of the child's circumstances and carrying out a thorough assessment. The assessment should be undertaken by an experienced professional. The type of experts that could be relevant in protecting children who are suffering from the type of child abuse discussed in this project will include the following experts: social workers, teachers, specialists on the type of belief system in question, psychologists, psychiatrists, and/or medical doctors. If you suspect that a child is being maltreated or suspect that a crime has been committed against a child, then contact the police and other child protection agencies in your area. We hope that you have found this project a useful tool in your decision-making process. Please view other projects at www.tinajew.co.uk or our channel Tina Jew on YouTube or TinaJew01 on Twitter. Please note that this project is protected by copyright to Tina Jew Limited. Please do not reproduce this project without first obtaining permission from Tina Jew Limited. This project belongs to Tina Jew Limited and all rights are reserved. 2015.